Hi, good people. Hi, TIs. It's Sherry, and I am here with some free and valuable information for you. Information that is going to help you benefit yourself as well as others. If you go ahead and listen to this, okay? It's interesting. So, today's Wednesday, Media Wednesday, I call on my channel. Okay, so I will be the name of my channel, Sherry's Research and Reviews. Okay, so I'm going to review a movie called Bird Box. Yay or nay? Have you guys seen it? Hopefully, yay. If you haven't, just be careful if you do decide to see it because it does include, it's a horror movie, so there's some obviously demonic energy. So be careful because whatever energy you draw into your environment, that, just take that as a safety warning. Okay, but so that's what we're going to talk about today. Media Wednesday, Bird Box. Okay, and if you take in, I mean, it was a good movie with a good cast, and it's got a wonderful, it's got a good underlying message, very symbolic, something we can all, there's a takeaway from this movie, a very big one. Okay, especially the way things are going, you just so listen up. If you'd like to stay, I invite you. Let's discuss Bird Box. Okay, and I apologize. I'm filming with my phone, so I can't be perfectly still. It's going to move around a little bit, okay? But, all right, we'll get through this. So, all right, Bird Box. It is a movie and starring, there's about 10, well, the main protagonist, female, Sandra Bullock, okay, and in the movie, she is an artist, and the very first scene, okay, it's her in her apartment, her studio apartment, and she's painting. And she's painting something dark, and it's not like happy colors and bright and flowers and sunshine and paisley, and no, it's dark in nature, and you can tell there's some inner turmoil, some problem with inner connection going on in the protagonist's mind. She's still a protagonist of the movie, but she's flawed, which is very realistic, I think, because we can have people that, are, central to a story, but still are flawed people because we're not perfect people, right? We're good people. Okay, I digress. So Sandra Bullock, her sister is played by Sarah Paulson. Okay, now Sandra Bullock's a little older in this movie and she's pregnant. Turns out she got pregnant by her boyfriend and he left Splitsville, leaving her to have her pregnancy and possibly raising a baby by herself, which happens in real life, as we well know, at times. Okay, so that could be contributing, obviously, to her. Her dark paintings, and her sister, they can tell they have a good relationship. Her sister's excited for her pregnancy and excited about having a niece or nephew and a new family member. So she's trying to encourage her, like sisters and family members do for one another. And then she asked Sandra Bullock, she said, have you watched the news? There's an epidemic going around, a pandemic. And Sandra Bullock goes, no. And she goes, well, you got to watch the news. There's a mass suicides going on all over the world, but it hasn't come to the United States yet. And Sandra Bullock goes, oh, and she goes, have you even talked to, our mother? And she said, no. So it's obviously some turmoil there, mother-daughter stuff. And then Sandra Bullock, she thinks about it. You can tell she's processing the information, mass suicides all over the world, but it hasn't come to the United States yet, is what happened. So the two characters leave the apartment, and then they turn off the TV with the remote. What they don't see, but what the audience, what we see, is that as they turn around and they clicked it off, the news was bringing out that the epidemic had crossed over into California. Okay. So, but they missed that. So the audience, we know that it's in California, and that's where the majority of this movie plot is played out in. Okay. All right, so they drive to the hospital. Sandra Bullock is going to get her ultrasound, which is a very happy day for many people, I would imagine. You're pregnant, you get to see what sex the baby is, and you can pick out names, and, an exciting moment. And she's there with her sister, and they get done with the appointment. Now, her sister doesn't know, but Sandra Bullock doesn't even know, again, if she wants to keep the baby because of the situation. So she grabs an adoption pamphlet, okay? On their way out of the hospital, as they're walking down the skywalk out back to the car, the epidemic hits. So now people start screaming and crying and running and, like pandemonium. Okay, it reads like a zombie movie when it gets to this point. Okay, and you'll recognize it, right, in zombie movies. But you see the zombies in this movie. You can't actually see the entities. Okay. And what happens when people, regular people, see the entities, their eyes glaze over and they get like a possession and then they end up killing themselves. Okay. So basically, you guys know that humans, we're flesh and blood, right? We're bones and all that. So we can see, we're very visual. Okay. Um, However, we live also, we share the universe with the spirit realm. Okay, that's actually higher up than us on the totem pole, So we're used to flesh and blood, and if we can't see it, it doesn't exist, but that's not true. And this movie, obviously there's a spirit world. And this movie is, because it's a horror movie, it's focusing on the wicked spirit world, the demons, okay, and how they are attacking people. And just by mere viewing them, people it affects their psyche so bad where they kill themselves. Okay, so it's a very strong concept, and it plays into the fact of, don't even look upon evil, right? But these people can't help it, have boundaries, right? Be careful who you let into your head, your actual physical environment, your heart, your life. This movie is speaking on that, okay? And so it's a message, and these people in the movie, they can't avoid it. They can't set boundaries because the entities are outside and in their field of vision, so they accidentally look and, oh, boop, that's it. So that being said, Sandra Bullock and her sister, they're going to the car. They get in the car, they're driving, they're trying to get the heck out of Dodge, how to avoid ending up dead, right? And all of a sudden, the sister, as she's driving, they're talking back and forth, and Sandra Bullock, what's happening? She's like, I don't know. It's talking about the epidemic. It's obviously here. And then the sister looks, and you can tell she sees an entity because her eyes do the glaze over thing. If you've seen any movies on, because this is about possession, right? Demon possession. Which is why I said be careful what kind of movies you watch, because you can draw in demonic activity into your environment. And then, who wants to have to do that? You'll be possessed. You're going to have to, the true God's going to have to help you. You're going to have to no. Just no. It's good not to ever even start that, okay? Just watch what you're bringing in. Right now, we're channeling, right? That's why this is called the YouTube channel. That's why this is Media Wednesday. We're using a medium, the phone, the internet medium to channel with each other, right? Yes. Okay. Words have power and words mean something. Channeling, medium. Okay, and this movie really, explains that. Okay, so don't even look upon the evil. But the sister accidentally did, because they're all in the environment. The sister looks, she gets that glazed over look, and she starts wanting to kill herself. And she's going to do it by crashing the car. Sandra Bullock, the sister's still in the car with her, and she knows something's wrong. And she's like, no, don't do this. Don't drive too fast. Don't crash us. The sister crashes them. The car tips over. They're struggling to get out. Sister crawls out from underneath the driver's side. Sandra Bullock's character crawls out from the passenger side. She's bleeding. She's pregnant. And she's telling her sister's got that look in her eye, and she's looking around. And Sandra Bullock says, stop it. Don't, you don't have to do this. Like, let's get help. And, she's calling her name, and the sister's just, she's already, been taken over. She goes into traffic, and there's a truck, and it, splats her all across, she's done. Sandra Bullock just watches like, can you imagine? So then she leaves the scene, because she's obviously, these entities they're invisible, but they can be seen, in a certain way. So she gets out of there, and she's looking, where is she going to go? So she walks, she ends up in a neighborhood a few blocks away. There's a woman coming out from the house, the whole, again, it's like pandemonium, people are running, there's cars flipped over, there's cars on fire, there's cars smashing, there's people killing each other. I mean, total chaos, okay, as you would imagine it would be. All right. So Sandra Bullock's looking around, and all of a sudden she thinks she just doesn't, there's no way, she's just going to die. So she sits down on the ground, and she's bleeding, and she's just sitting there. And then all of a sudden a woman comes out from one of the houses, and she says to her, hey, hey, you. And Sandra Bullock looks, and she doesn't know what to think. Is this woman here to help, or is this woman here is she part of the, you would never know in that situation, right? Who's friend or foe, who the real from the fake, you never know. But the lady says, come on in, you can come in our house. And Sandra Bullock is she's still hesitant. And then the husband is calling the wife from the house. He's like, get away from her. You can't go outside. It's dangerous. Come on back in. And she's like, I have to help her. Look, she's pregnant, And he's like, just get back here. And Sandra Bullock, finally, she gets up, and she decides it's okay. They're safe people. So she gets up and walks towards her. And as the woman walks towards her, she turns her head, and she sees an entity and starts talking to the entity, thinking it's her dead mother, and which of course we know is not true. Cannot speak to the dead. If you think you're speaking to the dead, you are probably speaking with a demon or a demon inspired, influenced person. Don't do it. Okay. Anyways, the woman goes speaking to, thinks it's her dead mother, grandmother, gets into the car, burning car, and burns alive. Okay. And her husband is screaming, and Sandra Bullock comes up to the house, and of course he's mad at her. He's like, my wife just died because of you, like trying to get you to come in here. So that starts them out on the funny foot, obviously. Wife died because of her in his mind. But yeah, this is what's going on. There's mass suicides. These entities in the environment are, when people look upon them, are causing people to commit mass suicide. All right, that is the plot. Um, Pay attention to the name of the movie, which is, Bird Box, which also I noticed might be a play on the word bird cage. Okay, and bird cage is used a lot in symbolism for occult and for, it symbolizes slavery, it symbolizes your mind is caged, right? Maya Angelou, why does the caged bird sing? Well, because it's in a cage, right? Birds are supposed to be in trees, in the clouds, in the environment, enjoying life, being birds. When you have them in a cage or a box, that's not natural, okay? So, bird box, all right? Might be a playoff on Birdcage. A lot of times movies are obviously thick in symbolism, including this one, very much so. And it's about a lot of faith, okay, which we'll get to. And it's about, seeing, right? Don't look upon evil, all right? Or, bad things will happen. But how can you avoid it when you're steeped in it? It's all around you. Okay, so back to the story. Sandra Bullock arrives, and there's a house, and there's 8 other people there, and the same thing. They're all like, what's going on? The owner of the house is played by actor John Malkovich. Okay, then their Machine Gun Kelly is also in this movie. Plays a guy named Felix. There's a Hispanic girl. I forget the actress's name. Sorry. There's B.D. Wong. He's the Asian guy that used to play the psychiatrist on Law and Order, and he also played on Mr. Robot. There's the guy from Get Out, not the main character, but the friend of the main character, the one that worked for the TSA. He plays basically the exact same role. The voice of reason and understanding what's going on, which he says, it's demons basically manifesting, and when you look upon them, you die, and you die by suicide. Okay. So yeah. So now she's in a house with other survivors, kind of like a zombie movie. Okay. Very dystopian, very end of day, survival type of stuff. That stuff is always interesting to me because I pictured in real life, right? Like, what would happen if you're just like stuck in a building or home with people you don't know? It'd be like an episode of Survivor. You guys remember that show? Yeah, it'd be like that. You got to get along to get along. So, anyways, here she is, Sandra Bullock, pregnant. The owner of the house, she inadvertently caused her death by the woman trying to help her. And so he feels some type of way, but they go ahead and she stays there, and they all kind of form a little group. Okay. Couple weeks go by, they start running out of food because this house was, before the epidemic, whatever pandemic, it was lived in by John Malkovich and his wife, and they're older, so they didn't have kids, they didn't have a whole bunch of food. The food supply is running low, so they either go out and get food, risk it, or stay in the house and die of starvation. So they have to go out and get food, and there's 8 of them, 8, 9, 10 or something, so there's a lot of them. They can't live without food. So they decide to. Oh, an interesting part in the movie. Actor, he's the main male protagonist. What is his name? Trevante Rhodes. Okay, he's pretty good. He becomes Sandra Bullock's love interest later on. He was in. His character was in the military, so he knows a few things. He's a smart guy, nice guy, sweet guy, leader type. Okay, but when they first get in the house, before anything, they're explaining, what is this, and the Lil Rel, how, what's his name? The guy from Get Out, Laurel Howery. Yeah, he is explaining that these are demons and we can't look at them, and that if we do, we die. And the other guy that was in the military, Tom, played by Trevante Rhodes, he goes, "Oh, well, we can't even look at them. Let's close all the windows. Put paper over them so we can't. Nothing can see it. We can't see out at all." So they did that, and they got the house all, souped up so that they can't see anything, so that they'll live. But then, like I said, fast forward, they needed food. They had to go on a food run. Well, how are you going to do that? Because then if you end up, going outside in an open environment, they're going to be there. And if you look on them, you're going to, So they decide take the car, soup it up, and cover the windows and use the GPS to go to the store, which is less than a mile away. It's very close. And one of the guys from Get Out, had worked at the store, before everything just happened, and he knew the way around the store in the neighborhood, more or less. But again, so they're going down the street driving with, in the car, not seeing anything, kind of like when you're at the car wash. And they were driving over stuff, and it was actually dead bodies, of course, because people had committed mass suicide. And they were like, is that dead bodies? And of course, the calm guy, Tom, he's like, no, no, that's debris. It wasn't. It was dead bodies in the movie. But, that kind of guy that keeps things calm. Okay? So, yeah. So here they are. They finally, by the grace of God, they get to the store. They go in the store, and they're just getting everything, because they don't know when they'll be able to be, come again. And, they're trying to survive. So they're in the alcohol. That'd be kind of fun, right? Going into the store and everything's free. You just take, I mean, not really, but you know what I'm saying. We've all had that, like a shopping spree. Okay, I'm digressing. But so they're in the store, and they're getting all their supplies. John Malkovich comes out. His character is a recovering alcoholic, a recovered alcoholic, but he's by the alcohol aisle, and I guess he said it's the end of the world, so forget about it. And he's drinking in the aisle. Sandra Bullock's shopping. She's trying to get stuff, baby stuff, and food, and she runs into these birds. Okay, this is where the birds enter the scene. Guess it was a store that sold animals too. So she gets the birds, they're in the cage, and she, takes them with her. They're going to take them home. She puts them in her cart. All of a sudden, everybody's shopping for different stuff. All of a sudden, knock, knock, urgent. Let me in. I'm scared. They're after me. Okay. And everybody's like, whoa, like, who is that? What is that? It's a pandemic. Like, where is this person coming from? The streets are empty. Like, is this person, are they, friend or foe, right? Real from the fake? Who knows? So they're all waiting because they want to help the person if they need help. But then nobody wants to, if you open up the door, you can risk seeing something and then you're going to die, right? So then, the guy from Get Out, he goes, oh, I think I know him. And they're like, because remember, he worked at the store. And they go, well, who is it? He goes, that's my coworker, such and such. I forget the name. And they're like, well, was he okay? And he's like, yeah, I mean, he was an ex-convict and felon and stuff, but he was okay, I guess. Not very convincing, but also not like he did anything horrible. So they're like, okay, maybe. And they had opened the door a little bit. And all of a sudden, the birds that Sandra Bullock had in the cage started, freaking out, like fluttering and squawking and just, because animals can sense energy, and I mean in the literal sense, frequencies from demonic and good forces, because they don't have the obviously brain power that humans have, to read situations with logic. So they go off of their senses. They can smell better. They can hear better. They can see better many times. So the birds start alerting and being disturbed from that it was a bad print. And Sandra Bullock said, something's wrong. No, close the door. Don't open it. And the guy and he's screaming, let me in, and then the guy from Get Out, because I think he felt bad because he had said he might be okay. And in that split second, then he decides to sacrifice himself for the group. He runs and pushes, he goes out the door, and then they can slam the door shut behind him. And then moments later, you hear him dying, and then the blood oozes through the door, etc., and yeah, they lost. So one down. Okay, they go back to the house, riding over dead carcasses again in their GPS, closed car, and they get home, and they unpack their groceries and their supplies that they got, and they're just sitting there kind of, somber. Oh, there was another girl came to live with them too. This is before they left the store. A pregnant girl. This one, Sandra Bullock's kind of upset about her pregnancy. The guy took off, and her sister just died. This girl was married, and her husband wanted the baby, and she's happy about her pregnancy. And that's an interesting contrast between the two characters. One woman happy about a pregnancy and one woman kind of not really all the way feeling it. So she ends up being a good influence on Sandra Bullock, and you can see her draw out Sandra Bullock's character. They needed each other. That, to be pregnant at the same time during all of this was good for, for them to have each other. So they're in the house again. They got their supplies and stuff. They lost their friend. I think they had to go out to get more supplies or something. And all of a sudden they go and look for the car, and Machine Gun Kelly's character and the Hispanic girl had taken off with the car. Now, when I first thought about this in the movie, you thought, what jerks, like, why would they do that? Just leaving these people without the car. But then when I thought about it a little bit more, they were probably so desperate that they had family members that they wanted to go save or friends. They took the chance and left to go help them, and probably were going to return. They never did. Obviously, something happened, but that's thinking about it a little bit deeper. That's what it was. Okay, not that they were just leaving with the car. They were going to get their loved ones. Okay, so they're there. They're chilling. They're living. They're trying to find out how they're going to survive long term. And again, let me in. Let me in. Let me in. Nobody's around except for the pregnant girl. The pregnant girl, remember, she's kind of sweet and a little bit young, so a little bit naive. So she ends up letting in what do you call him? A drifter. Okay. This guy's name is Gary. Gary is a little bit sketchy from the get-go. So she lets him in. And all of a sudden, the group finds out about it, and they're like, oh my goodness, like, who is this guy? You can't just be letting people in. Like, it's a pandemic out there. Like, what happened last time when we let somebody in? One of us died. Like, you can't do these type of decisions on your own. She said, I know, I just felt so bad because I know how it was for me to be the other person on the other side of the door and just needing help to get in. And they're like, okay, we understand, but don't do it again. This could be very dangerous. We don't want to die. And remember, it's John Malkovich's house. He lost his wife. He's drinking again. He's a little bit. He says something to the guy. He says, I know where you come from. And the guy said, mm-hmm. He said, you're from that, insane mental hospital where they, for the criminally insane, which means that not just ill mentally, it's more like you're actually dangerous. Okay, so there's a difference, right? Just like with everybody, you can be normal, quote unquote normal, and be nice, or normal and dangerous, or you could be quote unquote have a mental health issue, and be nice and just have a mental health issue, or you can have a mental health issue and be, mean, you know what I mean, and be wicked. So it's a fine line, you know what I mean? Don't, just because somebody is, one doesn't do the other, just because you're crazy doesn't mean you're mean. Just because you're normal doesn't mean you're nice. So, okay. And it was funny too, because this character in the movie, Gary is the name of the character, was played by probably the most handsome actor in the story, in the movie. But his character was the most wicked. Which is funny how that plays out. Again, watch who you let into your lives, into your physical environment, into your mental headspace, into your heart, into your friend circle, because some come to destroy. Okay? So anyways, Gary was a little sketchy. John Malkovich's character was not having it. He's like, He pulled out his shotgun, which he had the whole movie. But you figure it's a pandemic, so... and it's his house, so he was protecting himself. He pulled out a shotgun on Gary. He's like, no, you got to go. Last time we let somebody, this did cause problems. I don't trust you. I want you out. And they're like, and he's like, well, where am I going to go? Obviously if he goes outside, he could get killed. John Malkovich, I don't care. You just got to go. Like, you can't, no, this guy's dangerous. And the whole group, when he pulled out the shotgun, remember, he had problems with Sandra Bullock already. So she was skeptical, because she's like, oh, wow, like now he's going to do it to me now. When you pull out that kind of stuff, the whole group kind of was like, no, you have to calm down, and we're going to put you in the garage for a little while. Mind you, it's his house. They locked him out of his house into the garage. He was safe in there, but, because they were like, he was becoming a threat and they couldn't, and okay, so fine. So they let Gary in, and they still knew Gary was a little off, but they went ahead and gave it a chance, and they just said that they'd watch him. Okay, . Remember, there's two pregnant ladies here. The one girl starts going into labor, the one who let Gary in originally. Okay, Sandra Bullock's like, all right, the other lady there, played by, what did I say, Jackie Weaver. She was in Silver Lining, something, that movie with Bradley Cooper. And she looks a lot like Sally Struthers. She's a doppelganger for Sally Struthers, but it's not Sally Struthers. Her name is Jackie Weaver. She's an Australian actress. She plays a really good supporting role. So she's older and pretty, and she's going to help, she's going to be like a midwife duties, So she's telling Sandra Bullock, get some towels, get some hot water, get a bucket, let's go upstairs, let's help this lady give birth. So Sandra Bullock's grabbing all the supplies. All of a sudden, she starts having labor pains. Turns out she's also going into labor, right? When the other lady is. So, 2 out of the 3 ladies are going into labor. And John Malkovich is locked up in the garage because he's kind of being aggressive with Gary. You got the new guy, Gary, who they don't know really if he's okay or not. And so they're like, all right, but these ladies are giving birth. You got to, first things first. So Tom, the leader guy I was telling you about, he goes and helps, he helps get all the supplies and stuff. Long story short, they're upstairs. The girls are giving birth. John Malkovich is locked up in the garage. Gary is in the living room, whatever. Gary starts drawing, okay, while all this commotion is going on. Gary starts drawing, pay attention. Gary starts drawing demonic entities. This is why I said be careful what you channel, okay? Now, to draw something, you have to visualize it. I'm not a very good artist when it comes to drawing. I'm artistic per se, with music and stuff like that, I guess, you know. I lean towards that end of the spectrum, but I'm not like I can't really put my um, I can't put images in my head into pictures on a paper. Although I did win an artist contest when I was younger, but maybe I don't know. They even put it in the museum, the art museum. Anyways, but I don't think I can draw. But you know, some people just have a gift for it. But remember, before you can draw it, okay, motor function to draw it, your mind has to think it. So you have to see it in your mind, right? See it in your mind's eye. And that's what he was doing. And he was drawing these demonic entities, channeling. So what ends up happening is then after he starts drawing, he starts getting curious and he goes and peeks out the window. Boom. You could see it. His eyes did the whole little glaze over thing, and he had like a possession. He seen that thing. He conversed with it. He channeled, and it was on. Gary went upstairs. The two ladies had given birth. You know, the babies were crying and the women were crying. They were so happy because amidst all this, you know, wickedness and you know, pandemic and all that, like they were able to give birth and look at this, the beautiful things that can come out of pain, you know, and trauma. So, and chaos. Okay. And so Gary goes up there and he's like, he's acting normal, but you can tell, you know, the tempo change. The audience knows, but it's funny because the characters don't know. So Gary's going up there and he's like, hi. I was like, oh, I heard the babies. They're so beautiful. Can I see them? And the one girl, she's real sweet, the younger one. She, okay, yeah, sure, because she's proud of her baby, you know. She's like, oh, and he's like, oh, that's a beautiful baby. And she had a girl. Then he goes to say, and then the other midwife lady, Jackie Weaver's character, she's looking, she's smiling, she's proud. She helped these ladies give birth. Tom is downstairs, you know, whatever, washing his hands, you know, getting rid of the dirty towels, whatever. John Malkovich is still locked in the garage. And then Gary goes to Sandra Bullock, can I see your baby too? And she's like, yes. Oh, she's like, and she's kind of more cautious, but she's like, okay, sure. And he goes and he looks and he's getting a little too close. And, you know, she's kind of, and he's like, oh, just beautiful. I love baby. They're just beautiful, aren't they? And they're like, yeah, you know, everybody's happy. He's like, I want them to see. We should all see. And they're like, huh? And they're not really paying attention, but like, okay, yeah, we've seen the baby. And then he starts opening the windows. Remember, the windows are shut because if they look out the windows, they'll see the entities and they will be struck in and want to commit suicide and will die. Okay. So the windows are shut. They're, you know, I want to say boarded, but I don't think they boarded them, but they were shut with newspaper and blackened out. Okay. Here goes Gary. He's opening up the windows now. And they're like, uh-oh, like, why are you doing this, Gary? Like, no, don't. Please, God, no, Gary, don't do it. What are you doing? You know, close the windows. And Sandra Bullock puts a blanket over her head, you know, and she's got the baby and the baby's crying because obviously there's trauma going on. And then the other girl that was pregnant, accidentally, because when he rips out the newspaper, the sunlight shines in and she accidentally looks towards the open window as a natural reaction, which is what we do when we see light or sound. Okay, as humans, that's also how you condition people. We'll get into that later though. She looks towards the window and she sees an entity and she gets that look in her eye, and Sandra Bullock sees her and she knew what happened because she had seen it with her sister, and she's trying to get her to give her the baby because she doesn't want the girl to kill herself and the baby. She's like, let me hold your baby. Come on, let me hold your baby. And the girl's like, I can't, you know, and she's got that look in her eye. And Sandra Bullock's like, come on, let me just hold your baby. Please, let me hold your baby. And she finally gets the baby away from the girl. The girl gives her the baby, and then she runs and jumps out the window and kills herself because that's what happens in this movie. And Gary's coming back for, then he goes for the midwife lady, Jackie Weaver. He said, come on, don't you want to see? It's so beautiful. She's like, no, please don't do this. And he grabs her and he takes her over by the window. And he's like opening up her eyeballs so she has to look. And she's like, no, and she's trying to squeeze them shut. But he's like, you know, very metaphorical, you know, when you don't want to look upon something evil and they're, you know, trying to force you to do it, right? And he forces her eye open and then she looks and boom. And then she kills herself too, okay? She's dead. And I can tell you how. You can watch the movie, okay? Just be careful. I won't be watching another scary movie. So I'm not sure why I watched this one, but it was interesting. So let me review it for you. All right, so the two ladies are dead. You got Sandra Bullock left under the blankets with two screaming babies. They're terrified, and And then Gary's coming for Sandra Bullock, and she's like, "No, Gary, you don't have to do this. Please leave us alone. Get out of here." He's like, "No, I just want you to see." And he's trying to pull the blanket off her, and she's like, "Gary, get out of here." And okay, meanwhile, Tom is downstairs. Okay, and Tom walks past the garage. He sees John, and John Malkovich starts yelling because John Malkovich's character, he had seen when Gary was starting to get crazy before he went upstairs. He put the birds in the refrigerator. That's when John Malkovich's character, he knew something was wrong. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I knew this guy was going to be a problem. Help, help! He's something's wrong. This guy is, he's going to hurt somebody." And so here comes Tom downstairs. He sees John Malkovich, and John Malkovich he's like, oh, also too, before Gary went upstairs, he tried to kill off John Malkovich by opening the garage, okay, so that he would have to see. So John Malkovich is like crouching in the corner, like with his eyes covered in the garage, not daring to open his eyes. And so Tom comes down and he notices the garage door's open. He hurry up and shuts it, and he talks to John about. He's like, "What's happening?" He's like, "It's Gary." He's like, "He's gone crazy. He even put the birds in the refrigerator." And Tom goes to double check the refrigerator, and sure enough, the birds are in there. And he hurry up and he hears the commotion upstairs, and he runs upstairs. I think he lets John Malkovich out, and then he runs upstairs, and he runs by Sandra Bullock. Gary runs past him downstairs. John Malkovich is downstairs. So them two get into it, and Gary's like, "I just want you to see why." This is the thing with these people, this movie. He just wants them to see, but don't you understand? When they see, they die. So it's like somebody telling you, "I just want you to die," And so John Malkovich is like, "No, I'm not doing, like, get away from me." And then Gary gets the scissors, kills John Malkovich. Then Tom, finally, he figured out, Sandra Bullock was okay. He made sure her and the two babies are okay. Then he comes downstairs. He ends up killing Gary. All right. Da-da-da-da-da. You follow it so far? It's interesting, right? So, I'll tell you the rest of it, and I'll condense it, okay? Maybe I should do a part 2. Yeah, maybe we'll do a part 2. But just to talk a little bit about the Easter eggs and the whole symbolic meaning in this movie. Remember, name Birdcage. One thing, if you notice about Sandra Bullock's character, when she's on her way to the hospital in the beginning of the movie, she's got on a coat, and it's blue, and it's got like looks like bird feathers. She looks like a bluebird in it, It's very symbolic. Bluebird is symbolic for different things. Okay, very, very highly symbolic. So that could be what the movie is touching on. Also, there's a part in the movie where she is given a gift. Either she's given a gift from the pregnant girl, or she gives a gift to the pregnant girl, or I think she gives one to her, and it's in a blue bag. Okay, so it's something about that that's very symbolic. Definitely the bluebird thing, though, because that's part of like, I believe that's part of like MK Ultra and all that mind control stuff, and that, anyways, bluebird. So that's symbolic. And then also, too, with the whole idea of the movie is to not see evil. Like, don't look upon it, right? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, okay? And that keeps you safe. Real quick, before we leave off, and I'll do a part 2, you guys do know, obviously, I hope you know that. It's important for you to know that there is an invisible spirit realm that we live among, okay? There's obviously good angels, and the true creator, and they are sit at the top of the hierarchy, as well as Jesus Christ. So we're good. That's the ones we have to please. We please the true God, and that's the one we answer to, and that's the one who has dominion over everything. Okay, which is sad that this movie doesn't bring it out, but if you understand, movies usually don't glorify Christianity, and when they're horror movies, usually they are doing the opposite and glorifying the demon spirit realm. Okay, which is why I don't watch scary movies. For one, I don't know why I watched this one. I won't be watching one again, but just so you understand that. But yeah, so the whole see no evil, hear no evil, we live within a spirit realm as well, so you have to be careful what you channel in and what you're seeing when it comes to taking in, what again, this is Media Wednesday, taking in media, through movies, through music. Do you know a lot of music is actually spell casting? You're chanting. Oh yeah, and don't say, "Sherry, are you sure you didn't make that up?" I'm telling you, I can't get too much into it. I said I wasn't going to, I have to be careful for myself, but, do a little research, find out how the occult works, find out how those contracts are signed, find out what music really means, those lyrics. I mean, you can tell, you hear some lyrics, and do they sound positive? The beats sound good. I know, because I love music and I like movies. But you have to figure out the message. It's programming. It's setting up, it's influencing your way of thinking. You're darn right it does. It modifies. It's trying to modify behavior. So what I'm saying is with these horror movies is that they don't glorify the true God, which is sad because that would be that, the true God doesn't fix everything right now. Bad things still happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people. You're like, well, how did, they don't deserve that. But, this is how it happens for right now. It has to play out, okay? There is a serious issue, a grand issue being resolved right now in the spirit world that also touches down on the human realm. Okay, I'm going on, aren't I? Blah blah blah. So you understand there's a spirit realm that we live amongst, okay? And the true God sits on top of it all. So, but what does that have to do with this movie? Because this movie didn't really glorify the true God. No, because it would have kind of at the end. I'll do a part two, okay, and we'll talk about the end, and then we'll get into it, okay? And yeah, so that's it. Oh, one little thing too I wanted to say about not seeing evil. There was a marshmallow test. It's called marshmallow test. It's a psychological experiment. It was done on these children that were kindergartners. Basically, I'll get into that into the next video. If you guys want to stick around, if you enjoy this, if it's not too long, I'm so sorry. I hope you're enjoying this time. I hope it's interesting. I want to hear your comments. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Share it if you want. Comment. Did you see it? Are you gonna see it? What's up with this movie? It's good. I mean, there's a takeaway message, a good takeaway message. All right, part two coming up next. Thank you guys. Do your research. Okay, there's also, you can look on YouTube, you can look at the reviews on this movie. Other people do a much better job than me. Research it and remember that the true God loves us. Okay, thank you. Bye, and I'll see you later for part two.